Well, all three of those things are completely separate things. Pulsechain, on the other hand, they're all basically under the same banner. Pulsechain, PulseX, Hex, they're all Richard Hart ecosystem things. So whenever things get added to something, whenever there's new utility, whenever there's new developments, to any of the three, well, I guess not really Hex, you can't update or upgrade Hex, but whenever there's any upgrades to PulseX or Pulsechain, the other two are going to see the benefit from it because they're all within the same ecosystem. They're all under the same banner. Versus ETH, Bitcoin, and Uniswap, one update or upgrade to one of them may not benefit the other ones, and if not, and it may hurt the other ones. An upgrade to Bitcoin or an upgrade to Uniswap may hurt ETH or Bitcoin down the line. Right. And that actually brings a good point. The fourth one, and that is the incentive token. So other DEXs that have their own incentive token are separate from the initial gas coin. Perfect examples like Spooky Swap on Phantom. They have their Boo token, and that's mostly paired up with Phantom, but they're two different entities. So we have our gas token, our DEX token, and our incentive token all with under the same banner as well.
And that's a perfect transition to talk about incentive tokens. That's a great point on how instead of being independent, they are I don't know what's the word. I don't know, almost like codependent, but no, they're all mutually beneficial.
Codependent but healthy.
Exactly, a healthy codependent relationship. Exactly. But that's perfect segue because I want to talk and ask about incentive token and what your thoughts are, because Briz raises a really cool point here, talking about incentive is Richard's Bitcoin, and the incentive to farmers are the Bitcoin miners. So let's talk about incentive. What are your thoughts? What's going through your head about incentive token right now? Because that's something I haven't spent a lot of time on, and haven't something I really brought to the channel just yet. So I'd love to hear where you're at with incentive, what you see for the future, and just whatever you're thinking right now.
Yeah, I'm super pro incentive coin. I like it a lot, and I like using a percentage of my bag and what I perceive to be fairly safe liquidity pools to accumulate it over a long period of time. Now, I know there's a lot of discussion on whether or not you should invest in it, or like whether you should buy it, or whether it's just a dump only token. Like people compare it to like Zen and stuff like that. I don't think any of those things are true. I will say the same principles of like buying tokens apply to ink like everything else. And because there is some more sell pressure, because there are a certain segment of the user base that don't value it. If you're going to actually buy it, I would wait till it's heavily discounted to buy it versus when it's at fair value or above it. So I think the question of whether you should buy it or not is separate from its like value, because I think just like if we saw incentive token 90% off relative to like Pulse or PulseX, like I would easily be a buyer, because the fixed inflation rate of it actually allows the scarcity of it to be predicted linearly across time. So exactly a year from now how many more coins there are going to be versus now. And you also know that every year that goes forward, the inflation decreases. It's like a halvening happens every single year, because the first year from time 0 to year 1, that's 100% of the inflation comes out. Well, from year 1 to year 2, that's 50% of the total supply coming out in inflation. Year 2 to 3, it's 33%. Like it keeps getting, like every single year, the emissions of the incentive token become a lower percentage of the total supply over time. So the more that you can get, the earlier on, the larger player you're going to be in the system, and the easier it'll be for you to say, basically, market make. Be able to control price. And I think it's the perfect token, for two things. First one is to build something on top of. I'll explain that later. But two, it's the perfect kind of token to be able to, control the chart and to be able to set long-term historical bottoms for people who want to accumulate a vast majority share of the supply and control the way the chart looks, and basically be able to pump it long-term. I think it's the perfect token for that.
It's so interesting. Yeah, just thinking about this long-term. Do you see what use cases could you see coming along as more of a speculative kind of conversation? What could you see being the use case long term? I know Briz raises a really good point here and says, Briz, also great to have you here, man. In year 2 and 3, especially in year 4, the incentive will be so scarce. In order to pay out incentive farmers, value will have to be driven into the coin, in my opinion. It's an interesting point. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so he's definitely right in that the health of the PulseX farms and basically the PulseX DEX and the health of our liquidity bonding does hinge very heavily on the incentive token having value. right? So if you're if you're farming like one incentive token, 1 ink a day, but it's only worth a penny, like, are you really going to put your coins up to do that? Like no, you're not. But if you're earning one a day and it's worth $1 million, like, are you going to put as many coins as you can to try to get that one a day? It's like, yes. So it's like the amount of liquidity that we have and the depth of liquidity that we have depends on how valuable the token is. And so as time goes on, and the emissions never actually go down, the emission rate is always constant, but it is more rare relative to the total supply. But as the price of the token goes up, more people will provide liquidity, making it more competitive to get the token. But as the price goes down, it becomes less competitive, which allows it to be more centralized over time. And actually, as we all know, centralization is actually really good for price appreciation if the centralization is in diamond hands who want to see the asset appreciate over time. Anyways, that's a long way of getting around your question which was like utility, right?
Long-term utility.
So
what speculative utility?
Yeah, so speculative utility. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but it would look something like this. Whenever Richard Hart builds something in the future, you need to have the incentive token to be able to participate. So let me think if I can think of an example. Let's just say he runs another sacrifice, just hypothetically.
What about the
Let's
wallet?
say he does his wallet sacrifice, right? He says, I am only taking the incentive token. You can only send incentive token. If you send anything else, you get no credit for that sacrifice. Basically, you're still going to have, you're still going to have people on the left hand of the IQ curve sending hex. But hey, so that's just off the top of my head. Well, all of a sudden, if you want to get a large percentage of the supply, you're going to have to buy the crap out of incentive token to be able to send it over. And the people who have been farming it all this time are going to be able to get in for free. So that puts demand into the system. And what's cool about that is that, there are similar dynamics actually with Ink and Icosa. I'll let you guys put together the pieces after I explain it with Ink. But Ink is like the most abstracted form of value that exists within the system. Another way of saying that is like the endpoint of incentivization for the entire system.
Right. When everything comes together kind of thing on the edge in like in a far future case, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like, let me see. I think the best way of saying it's the most abstracted form of value. But because it's the most abstracted form of value, if anything gets pumped into it, it actually goes back to the top and provides value to the thing at the very top. So I'll let me see if I can outline that out mechanistically. So say we get some kind of utility for the incentive token. People go to buy the incentive token. The incentive token price goes up. People decide to provide liquidity to the ecosystem. Increased liquidity equals better order execution equals it means it's more apt that people are going to trade and orders are going to be routed through it, which means more buy and burn. And buy and burn means more price appreciation for all the assets together. So by putting value into the incentive token, you're indirectly causing a chain of events to happen that would put momentum towards price appreciation.
That makes a lot of sense. And do you think that would really, or go ahead if you have something else you want to add to that as well?
That was just a long way of me saying what I said before, which is that the state of the incentive token strongly dictates the health of the entire system. That's like the mechanism of how it works.
Thank you so much for watching this clip. If you enjoyed it and you want to watch the whole stream, there is a link to the full stream in the description, as well as all the links to any guests that you're seeing in this stream as well. If you want coaching from me directly, you can go to the links in the description for either a 30-minute or 1-hour call, as well as a group call, which is a massive discount on my hourly rate for an hour and a half with up to 12 other people. I also have a book on Amazon that you can get in either paperback, hard copy, or Kindle, which the Kindle is absolutely free, as well as a free version of the book on my website in PDF format. So thank you again for watching this clip. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you again very soon in the next one. Peace.